What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. Before I get into it, I know what you're thinking, a new microphone, but you guys bullied me one too many times and I finally caved. So let's jump into this. So we're back on another devlog for my upcoming tower defense game, Pixel Fortress, that I'm building in the Unity game engine. This week I've been working on the visual overhaul that I've been slowly implementing into the game. So let's jump into what I've gotten so far. So, since the project started, whenever I tested the game and noticed something that I wanted to change, I chucked it into the Notes app on my laptop. And in practice this is great, but the Notes app doesn't really have any good feedback and it seemed a little bit cluttered. So, I kicked this week off with converting those notes into a Trello board. Now Trello is a completely free program that I use to organize notes, tasks, and projects into really nice lists. The way that I set it out is I organized it into backlogs, to do, in progress, and completed. And I also gave each note their own label, which showed what the task was associated with. Now another thing that I did was actually converted these into user stories. Now the idea with user stories is that you can take on the role of the user and create a short description of features you want to see in the game. An important note on user stories is the format of them, which is broken into three parts: the user, the problem, and the reasoning. Let's take my story here for example. The user can be anyone who uses the program, whether it's the player, the developer, the designer, or anyone in between. The problem is what you want to see in the game. It's the specific feature that you are looking into. And to make user stories easier to implement, you break these down into their most primitive functionalities. And finally, the reasoning. You always end the user story with a "so that I can" or something similar. Now doing this is a really easy way to break down the tasks into its simplest form, but to also understand why you're implementing different features to ensure that all needs are met. Now, if user stories aren't something you guys regularly do in your development process, I really recommend it for those reasons. So moving on to the actual development of the project. As you can see, the current state of the project is definitely in need of some severe visual improvements. To me, the game feels extremely static. So I drew up a mock design inside of Sprite with a potential design of the level and UI layout. My goal with the UI elements is to make it feel like it's actually a part of the scene and to minimize any jarring UI elements that overpowers the actual gameplay. My task here will be to implement this into the game and convert the existing UI settings into this mock-up design. So I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit. Okay, so I've managed to add this stuff in, so let's break down exactly how this works. In the bottom left corner of the screen here, I have added in the shop. The platforms show the shop units that are currently buyable, so you can just hover over them at any moment, click on them to buy them, and then place them onto the screen as normal. Now, a cool thing here at the moment is I have a list of unit platforms, and depending on how many units exist in the game, we'll dynamically update the platforms to remove any unused ones, as well as update the platform information based on the unit's data. There are still a few problems here with the readability and maybe how intuitive the shop is to begin with, but I'm really happy with how it's looking so far. The next thing I've added is the new wave counter. So, like I mentioned, I wanted to try and make the UI elements feel more immersive, like it belongs in the scene. So, I've added a building here. Now the building serves no significance, it's just a building, but it shows the current wave count throughout the run-through. Similarly, at the top here, I have included the health and the currency, which is displayed as a hospital and a bank, which will always just show whatever the health and currency is at. The only issue I find with this at the moment is that it can be a little bit difficult to differentiate within the scene, as in it's somewhat not noticeable enough during gameplay from what I have found. I often just click into the shop items without really looking at whatever my current money is at. Finally, as I'm sure you guys can already see, I wanted a clearer definition between the main platform and the background area. So I started experimenting with ways to make it feel different. What I landed on was to have the border of the main map area to have a hovering effect, which was also slightly elevated to the rest of the platform. And so far this has worked really nice, but I'm still not completely sold on the background tiles just yet. So with all of these changes, I would love to hear you guys' opinions and suggestions on things that I can make different, make a little bit better, so please let me know down in the comments section below. Now the final visual update, which I'll get onto now, is the upgrades. My idea for it is to have a few pillars that are at the bottom right here, which grow depending on how many upgrades are applied. As of right now, each unit can have 3 upgrade trees, and at the moment, each tree can be upgraded infinitely. But I want to have a more of a Bloons Tower Defense upgrade system where you can only go with 2 upgrade branches at a time, but I'll get onto that a little bit later. For now, I'll get onto designing and implementing these changes, so I will catch up with you guys in a little bit. Welcome back guys, it's a new day of development and I've just finished implementing the upgrade tower system. So let's jump into how this works. So as you can see, whenever a unit is selected in the bottom right corner here, 3 towers show up. These correspond to the 3 upgrades that can be applied. Whenever a purchase is made on a tower, the tower will then increase in size. This system is persistent through any units that are purchased, so if I select a new tower here which hasn't been upgraded, you can see that the towers for him aren't built. Now obviously there's still a ton of work to do here to get this to work efficiently and neatly, with my main concern being there's no explanation or representation right now of what you're upgrading and how much it costs, so I'll have to think about ways I can communicate that. I do have some basic ideas for it though, which will probably just involve a simple overlay of the upgrade type, a simple description and how much it'll cost, as well as an icon that hovers over the tower which can further communicate what type of upgrade it is. Something like a skull for damage, a telescope for range, or multiple bullets for fire rate. Anyway, that's the progress I've gotten done this week. Like I mentioned, I would love to get some feedback from you guys for things to implement in the game and visual changes that can be made. Otherwise, as I mentioned in the first devlog, I will be holding monthly releases of the game to anyone that shows interest in my Discord group. So join that if you haven't already, as I am preparing for the first testing release shortly. Next video, I'll be working on some map loading and basic data saving, as well as implementing a couple new friendly units and enemy units into the game, so look forward to that. I hope you guys enjoy your week, and I'll catch you soon. Take care.